Thanks for staying with us. Everyone in West was affected by the tragedy that hit that small town 1 year ago.
The journey that followed has been painful, but has brought the community closer together. Those left behind picking up the pieces are determined to not let this tragedy direct their future.
Our story continues with a closer look at how the city of West and its people continue to move forever forward.
In a lot of these small communities, the schools are the focal point, and if you can get the school put back together, then you can continue to provide the glue that holds the rest of the community together.
Principals and our superintendent met with the school board, and that next morning, Thursday, 8 a.m. here at this campus, and we were making plans on how we were going to open the doors on Monday.
That probably signified right there, man, we've got a lot of work to do as far as facilities go. Certainly the immediate needs were needing to be addressed. We need to get our staff back in the classrooms teaching kids. Kids need a little bit of normalcy. We needed to make sure we had an opportunity to supervise kids for the community and their parents so they could get their lives back together.
My personal issues and losing the house, I put that aside, and I knew, we had to get school started. We had to do what was best for the kids of West and just get back to some sort of normalcy.
Conley gave up some of their buildings to house West High School. They decorated in West High School colors to make them feel at home. It's that type of community spirit in Central Texas that really makes you proud, because they could have just said, good luck, have a good day, but they didn't. They came in with buses, they came in with supplies. It's just an awesome show of support and love.
There were so many people here that Saturday and Sunday trying to get classrooms set up, desks in the classrooms, just getting it all ready so that the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders could start on that Monday.
They were just happy to be back amongst their friends. They were happy to be back in school. The biggest thing I got was when we got back to Conley on that Monday is, Coach, are we going to be able to get doing some athletic stuff? And so, we worked out a plan where we were able to get in athletics again, and Coach Robbie enough for that. That was the main thing. The kids wanted to get back to a normal situation. Almost a year later, we're in a very good place, and certainly we're going to be in a really great place come Christmas of 2015 or the spring of 2016.
Hardest part for me was that first couple of weeks where, as firemen, we were driving to Waco every morning, and we were escorting a hearse back to the funeral home, escorting them into the funeral home under full honor guard, and then coming and working all day, and then going to a funeral that afternoon.
I didn't get to see the house for 3 weeks. First of all, they wouldn't let us in, and then second of all, of course, we were burying my son. To see it was, I can't even tell you the words. To see that you're home, it's one thing to lose your son, but then you go back and all the personal items that you have are just destroyed. You dig through tons and tons of insulation looking for a hope of something that you kept, and it wasn't there. And at the time you think, how are we ever going to pull ourselves out of this?
We were finally allowed to go see it, and from the outside it looked okay. The windows were broke. I could tell that some of the brick had fallen off, but I thought, doesn't look too bad. Maybe it's pretty salvageable. And then, of course, once I walked inside, it was the roof. Everything had just caved in. Insulation everywhere, glass everywhere, just like a bomb had gone off.
I had the opportunity to go over there, and I drove up to it, and I just kind of laughed because it was like a bomb had hit it. I called Lisa back. I said, "Go get a hotel. We don't have a home," and I told her, "Just go there, and I'll be home when I'm home."
Folks began to ask, are we going to have church on Sunday? Well, we weren't allowed to get to the building yet. And so we decided we're going to have church. I just don't know how, but we'll have church, because at a time like that, family needs each other more than ever before, and we see ourselves as family. So we needed to be together. But on top of that, we believe that God is worthy of our worship regardless of our circumstances. He doesn't change. So if He's worthy of our worship when things are good, He's worthy of our worship when things aren't good.
We lost half our town. We lost our firemen. I grew up here, you know, and I went up and down them streets. My mother's house that I grew up in was destroyed. So it was heart-wrenching.
I wanted to move so far from West. I didn't want to be back in our area. And I think Parker being here in West, staying in West, I felt like I needed to for him.
The biggest thing is coming back to West. Coming back and seeing where the apartments were, watching as they tore them down. Watch them as they go through our belongings. Watch them put our stuff in a dumpster that they think that isn't worth the value to us.
We had to focus, because we had to be strong to take care of our people. That's what we were elected for. And when you live here and you know everybody, you want to help them. And that's what was our first deal, just to help our people.
One of the things you see in the federal government is the bureaucracies don't work very well usually. But in this case, we saw just this very coordinated effort.
They got people kind of secure and got them going, and then after a period of kind of everybody getting displaced from where they were going to be, we started looking, well, what needs to be done now? And just looking at the town, it's like, well, let's get rid of these houses. You know, I think that would make everybody feel better.
Our council never once thought about themselves. You know, 4 of the 6 of them lost their homes. They had to put their families and their losses second and the city first. No one ever complained about doing that. No one ever questioned why they had to do that. They just did their job.
They're not going to sit down on their Purdale and just say, wait, well, who's going to help me? They're going to help themselves, and that's what they've done. There's some other houses. Here's the head coach. He was one of the first on Reagan Street.
Anyway, she's the light of my life right here. We don't have a home, but yet we're probably closer than ever because we are, you know, together. We're living at my parents' house right now, and we're sharing a room where we've got a lot of close time, a lot of together time, and so I think it's brought us closer. And just knowing that, you know, with this explosion, I mean, we're just very fortunate we weren't at home, that we were away from the house, and just very blessed that we're here and we can continue with our lives.
It was a difficult process for us at times, you know. We didn't exist, you know, my wife and I never built a house, and so we had a lot of decisions to make. And I guess probably the toughest part of it was in the middle of football season, which is a very busy time of year for me. And so, you know, but luckily our builder did a great job of handling things for us.
We're in that rebuilding mode just like our town is. We can learn a lot from our town, and tonight our town is going to learn a lot from us. Rise up.
My daughter-in-law said, "Isn't there something you want to change?" I said, "No, I want my house back. I just want the way it was, everything in it. If I could find the same furniture, I would probably do that too. But, you know, I liked my house."
I enjoy, you know, when I step outside of my in-laws' house, seeing people working and hearing the saws and the hammers. It's a comforting sound actually now.
Everybody who's built their house has made some changes in it to make it better. My office will be a little bit different. The ambulance station is a little bit different inside, but it's better.
It's a place for new memories. Old memories will be there on the property, but the home is our new strong place to be. And a home is what you make it.
This is rebuilding. This is truly rebuilding.
That was a benchmark for the first person to move into a new home. in the city of West after the explosion. Then the next benchmark is the construction of the school and the temporaries. And the next benchmark is building the school and building the nursing home. And the next is fixing our streets. So each of these benchmarks is progress. And you take each little thing and it grows into a big thing.
We know it's a process, and we know that the most important thing is to build safe homes and to get the people back home where they belong.
It's great that we're back in our house, and you know, it shows our commitment to the community, and I think it helps other people realize that the community is going to build back.
We've got a long way to go, but I think within this first year, I think we've done a tremendous job. I think the people have pulled up their bootstraps and dusted themselves off and moved forward.
We are coming back. We will be back. We'll never forget it. We'll never get over it. But we're getting back to normal.
You hear from other organizations who've gone through disasters and been through hurricanes like in Sandy or in the hurricane with Katrina. And they just talk about how far along we are. And I think that that's a credit not to the city council, but also to the citizens themselves, because they didn't back down. They didn't feel pity for themselves. They picked themselves up and said, we're going to move forward, and that's what they've done.
I think the success here is a model for the nation, because we were a volunteer-driven recovery.
What makes West special isn't going to go away. And instead of changing who you are, this tragedy has simply revealed who you've always been.
In 3 months, to be able to completely put an organization together, for the caseworkers to be able to meet with clients, to build cases for them, and then to advocate on their behalf and have funding for them 3 months later, I mean, that's a significant amount of work in 3 months. And so, to me, I feel like a lot of work was done very quickly.
If you were here the day it happened, some few days that it happened, and you go there 1 year later, you see a lot of improvement.
To be able to go through there when everybody is there and have a block party would be what everyone's looking forward to. It's just a happy feeling to see someone getting back into their house and getting their life back together.
You're a fireman, you got a fire truck, you got water on it, you're going to go put water on fire. You know, you're going to rush in and do what you can to douse it. You know, I don't think we'd have done anything differently knowing the situation, but like you say, hindsight, we wish those guys would have got out of there quicker, you know.
It's been discussed on the state level, it's been discussed on the national level, and certainly nothing they did caused the explosion. And I think natural instinct, you know, those firefighters see a fire and they want to, you know, fight it.
When we went back over, is there anything that we could have changed? Our response for a small town, our neighboring departments, everybody, that's what we've practiced multiple times, and it pretty much went the way we've planned it.
I don't think any department in Waco or Dallas would have handled it any differently.
I wish they would have known about all the chemicals and stuff. And that way they could have just, you know, contacted everyone and evacuated the town.
If we had had better information about what was actually going on in that fertilizer plant, I think we'd have most if not all of our first responders with us today. We wouldn't have lost those 12 brave men that died that night because we would have known what was going on in the plant, and B, they would have known that the protocol would have been to stand back, let the thing burn, explode.
I lost members of my family in the firefighting community. And out of the 41 plants or the 500 or the 67,000 facilities in my lifetime, this is not something we deal with every day.
Again, you make these plans with all these different contingencies, but when you've got people injured right there by the scene, you're going to take care of them. And so you may say, hey, well, we could have done this differently, but I don't know that I would have done it any differently with the insight that I have now.
I think there's always going to be lessons in whatever you do. When you have to experience something you've never gone through, there's going to be mistakes. But again, you have to make those mistakes to get through that learning process. So no, I don't think we could do anything differently.
This is going to be a marathon, and this is not a sprint. You know, unless you come up with a book, Disaster for Dummies, you're going to make mistakes. And you do the best you can, you analyze it, and you go from there.
In my personal opinion, had they not done it this way, West would not exist anymore.
One can always wish for more equipment and more manpower. And I remember the night that it happened, we called in everybody on duty and anybody else that would answer the telephone. And we had them en route to West. So, you know, short of having more budget, more equipment, and more manpower, I could not have asked for a better response from our people and from the other first responders, because they gave it their all and put their heart into this.
The awareness that has come out of this, not just locally but statewide, is, and not just, and we're focused on ammonium nitrate because that's what exploded in this case, but I think it goes beyond that. I think it goes into all chemicals.
In my heart, it was truly an accident. And accidents, you can't prevent them because you don't know when they're going to happen. In hindsight, we might have could have had a little more training on the ammonium nitrate. It still wouldn't have prevented what happened. It was truly an accident.
I think it was a very unusual freak accident that couldn't have been, I just don't think you could have predicted it, but I'm just one guy.
I think you need to live life to the top. I don't think you need to ever take for granted that. I wish that day I could have hugged Joey. I saw him so many times that day. I wanted him to go to lunch with me that day, and I hesitated to call him. So my goal in life now is to just make sure I tell everyone that I love you and wish people good days and cherish the times that we have together. I never thought Joey would be gone.
And on the left here we have the infamous fertilizer plant. It has been cleaned. EPA is still monitoring it. They've been monitoring it since the day it exploded. I could see a new industrial park here with maybe a distribution plant of some sort where they can just truck in their stuff and truck out. This is a perfect example of having an industrial park right here, you know, on the outside of town. You know, so you've got the zoning that's already in place. So it could be a great industrial plant or industrial park.
We're going through a process now as a community of asking that very question. What do we want West to become? Where are we going with this? One of the Catholic charities has sponsored a group to come in and help us with economic development to figure all these things out. Where are we headed and what's going on? I would like to see more businesses come into West. I'd like to see maybe some kind of industrial area set up so that folks can bring in businesses here and bring their families here and settle here.
My biggest goal now is to get that park rebuilt. We've had, you know, from a hot dog benefit that we thought we'd make $400 maybe at the max, we made over $100,000. I mean, that is just awesome. I think it's important that children at an early age, no matter how old they are, if they have a positive go, I just feel like everyone should try to make that go possible. To see the smile on Parker's face and to see that he can do something is just great.
In the Old Testament, the people are instructed to always tell the story to the next generation so that they never forget. We've got to do that.
You know, we'll never be the same, but I don't think it's going to be much different. We're going to be a small town surrounded by farmland, interstate and railroad tracks, and hopefully a 3A school that's thriving, and we've moved down a notch, which may help us a little bit. We don't have to compete with some of those big schools, but I think we'll basically be the same.
Tomorrow is promised to no one. I think it takes on a lot more meaning to the citizens of West. So as far as for myself and my family, I enjoy them a little bit more. There's some days, yes, I could probably work a little later than I do, but hey, I'm home and I see my family and my daughter. My daughter lives in Austin. I call her a lot now, more than I used to. It is a little different for me, and I think for a lot of people like that, because I do believe that tomorrow is promised to nobody, and now it really takes on a lot more meaning.
You can't help but when you go down to where the high school was and it's an empty lot. You see the fertilizer plant was and it's an empty lot fenced in. You see where the nursing home was and there's nothing there. It can't help but change you.
We also dispatch for the West Police Department. So I mean, I talk to these guys, and that's a huge thing that's changed for me. I had talked to them, you know, and you know, if one of them calls on the phone, you know, you kind of pick on each other about, you know, silly things that I say. You know, when I page out fire departments, there's silly things that they say. But I had never really met anybody, and I have changed that now. The volunteer fire departments, I try to go to fundraisers or stuff and just try to meet who I'm sending out into harm's way. Because that was my hardest part for a long time after this, was guilt. That I had sent them to a call that they didn't come back from.
These are people's houses. This is where they live their lives. And they'll never be the same.
If you really want to know, I want to sit down and just bawl my eyes out. To be real honest with you, I would just like to be Samantha from Bewitched and just witch my nose and have everything back the way it was for everyone here. But especially, you know, being proud, I want my house back. I'd love to just sit down in the big middle of it and cry my eyes out, which I have done a lot. It's been very emotional.
Never going to be the same. I mean, we grew up right by the park. We had friends by the park. I mean, we played basketball and hockey. When we were growing up, we used to have hockey, you know, games all the time. My football over there, and it's not ever going to be. You're never going to get that back. I mean, like the house is gone, but move on, move forward.
A town, a community, an organization, when faced with a challenge, it's not going to be as it was. And you've got a choice to make. You're either going to make the best of it and improve yourself, or you're going to go the other direction and not do anything about it and deteriorate. And I see our community doing what it can to improve itself.
I try to live each day to the fullest. Just know that you know, my daughter and I were not at home, so I feel like we've got a second chance on all this. We can you know, just keep going and moving forward, and just know that we're very fortunate. And so that's the blessing, is that we live each day to the fullest, because you never know, you know, what's going to happen when it's going to be something happen and then you're not here, you're gone.
Well, certainly my job gives me insight into the fact that there's no guarantee for tomorrow, and I've always known that just because of what I do. And so I don't think that's changed very much, but certainly some of the, you know, you think things won't happen to you or to your family, and that is gone. I mean, you just never know.
They took a punch, and there were a lot of people affected by that. And there are still people affected by that. Some of those scars will never go away. But the good thing about the community there is that they are strong, they'll rebuild, they'll come back even better than before, and they won't forget. You know, they'll know what happened, and they'll remember what happened. That'll be a part of that city's history forever.
It's hard to not look back and dwell on it, because you think about, oh my gosh, well, I could have done this. There's nothing we could have done differently, any differently than what we did. I could have maybe not been in front of the window, but even if we had made it to the car, my car imploded. It would have killed probably all 5 of us.
You know, I guess I have been the cheerleader from the very first day. And I've taken the attitude that there's only 2 ways to do it. 1, you know, you can sit back and feel sorry for yourself, or 2, you move forward.
I think the main thing that we can learn is that if we continue to work together and depend on God to give us the resources we need, that we can get through anything. We can become anything.
We can't take things for granted. And number 2, I think the biggest lesson is how you handle adversity and how you respond to bad things that happen to you. And you know, there's 2 ways you can move forward and trudge ahead and try to do the best you can do to make things better, or you can sit around and hope things happen. And so, you know, what we've tried to talk to our kids about, and what I think the school and city has done a great job of providing an example as is you got to move forward and you got to make decisions, and sometimes those decisions aren't easy, and but they're what's best for you, and they're what's best for our community and our school district, and handling that adversity and battling back from setbacks is something I think which is a big lesson that everybody will learn from.
Well, I think it's going to be viewed 2 ways. One is a tragedy, but also it will be viewed as showing the best of the American spirit, the best of the values of small town America, how a resilient community can pull together, and by working together with everybody, volunteers and governments, that they can rebuild in an amazing fashion. If every community in this country was like West, we'd have a whole lot better country than we have today.
The people were really amazing after the explosion. Strangers opening their doors for strangers to come stay. People receiving people who doesn't have anybody. Together we stand, together we shall overcome this.
Well, I hope they don't forget the people who lost their lives and honor them, but I hope that it stresses the positive things that happened from the explosion. As you know, this town was blown and they picked up the pieces and picked up their lives, and they're going forward.